There we go. Hey, what's up, guys? Debo here, bringing you guys another YouTube video. This week we are, well, actually last week we did the Renho Flavor build. Then I got a lot of nice generous contributions to the channel, so I decided to put the GrinReaper build out immediately, therefore following afterwards, because I had pretty much had the gear for it. And then basically start this week doing the Helltooth build. So as always, I greatly appreciate everybody, and you know, the more you guys support me, the more I can work for you guys and give back to the community with these guides and things of this nature. So anyway, like I said, let's go ahead and get into it. GrinReaper. It is a legendary helmet that has a chance to summon Horric mimics when attacking. The cool thing or interesting about this is that you don't actually need to do damage with the mimics. All you have to simply do is actually trigger the effect, and as you see, two little mimics actually come out. And when those little mimics actually come out, they can cast. There's certain skills they're allowed to cast off your skill bar. They cannot cast everything. Let me give you a quick breakdown of how it works. They can cast anything from Poison Dart, Corpse Spiders, Plague of Toads, and Firebomb. One thing to note here, if you actually use Spider Queen, instead of being limited by one Spider Queen, they can each cast multiple Spider Queens, so sometimes you can have about anywhere between 10 and 15 Spider Queens on screen, which is pretty cool. They can cast Grasp of the Dead. They can cast Fire Bats. From when last time I heard that the damage doesn't actually do with Fire Bats. I haven't tested it recently, but last time I checked, when they did Fire Bats, it did no damage. They can mimic Haunt. They cannot mimic Locust Swarm. From last time I heard, they cannot, of course, mimic any pets. They can mimic Horrify. They cannot mimic Spirit Walk. From what I do believe, they cannot mimic Hex. I heard they can mimic Soul Harvest, but I don't know why you would use it with this type of build. Sacrifice, they cannot mimic. Mass Confusion, they can mimic, but I must warn you, it seems like when they mimic Mass Confusion, it's on an internal cooldown, so they just can't simply spam it over and over again, because obviously that'd be pretty ludicrous. They can auto-cast Zombie Charger, Spirit Barrage, Acid Cloud. They cannot auto-cast Wall of Zombies. They can't auto-cast Piranhas or Perinado. They cannot cast Gargantuan, Big Bad Voodoo, or Fetish Army. And that's pretty much the basic rundown. So with that in mind, the whole point of the build is to basically use spells that usually are very they're on high cooldown or very expensive to cast, to basically use it to our benefit so that they can auto cast it in the heat of battle so we don't have to. And then if necessary, if we need to cast these skills anyway, we can go ahead and use it on our own. So again, while you're attacking, you'll go ahead and proc these little skeleton guys and stuff like that. And there is, as you can see, a little bit of a cooldown or internal cooldown for the GrinReaper build, so you just can't simply have these guys at all the time. So the internal cooldown is about 3 seconds, I do believe, after they fade out. So if you look 1,000, 1,000, well, about 2 seconds. So I noticed attack speed has been affecting it a lot more. I don't know if they buffed it and looked in a sense where you can just keep the skeletons up a lot quicker. Before, it seemed like the skeletons didn't actually come back as fast as they do now. But I think Blizzard did some internal changes with the maybe with the GrimReaper build they didn't tell us about. All I know is now that before, the helmet actually, well, you can proc the skeletons a lot more quicker, and then also the stats are a lot better too. Before, you used to only be able to get like int cooldown reduction, maybe critical percent chance in the socket. It was really, it was like if you wanted int, bit, and crit, you would lose a socket and vice versa. But they did add an extra stat to it, so it's actually pretty nice now where you can get one that has int, vitality, crit, and a socket, everything that you want in the helmet. So with that being said and talked about the GrimReaper, we'll go ahead and start with the gear choices here. Obviously, of course, you're going to need the GrimReaper, int, vitality, crit percent chance. I'm looking for one that has perfect crit in the future and higher int and higher vitality. Out of this legendary helmets that drop for Voodoo Mask, the reason why the GrinReaper, I wanted to do a focus build on it, is because a lot of people do get the GrinReaper early on, because it has, like, I do believe like an 18 to 20% chance to drop out of all Witch Doctor helmets. So when you get a Witch Doctor helmet, or the game rolls a legendary and it has to be a Witch Doctor helmet, it's 20% chance to either be a GrinReaper or be a what's the other one, Split Tusk, or a Zunimasa helmet. And then Jerome, Quizzicoatl, and Carnivore about at 9.8% drop chance, so pretty much 10% drop chance. So you can get lucky, get a Jerome, and go down a different direction, and I would advise for you to use Jerome over GrimReaper, if that's the case, or Carnivore, or the other ones. It's mostly used as an introductory build to get you started off, but it's also nice to know that you have a build in your corner that can work very good for you if you actually want to try to start pushing it to the higher levels. So This will be one of the most common masks you get as a new witch doctor because the percent chance drop, as again I said, is high up there. This, Zunimasa Skull Helm, and also Split Touch. You're going to see those masks a lot if you're gambling for masks. So that's why I thought it was pretty interesting to talk about it and make a build around it. We got the Ogdo's Shoulder, Ogdo's Bracers. We're going to be using Zunimasa with the GrinReaper, so obviously you're going to see Fetish Army damage increase. Int, Vit, Armor, that's kind of what you want. The bracers are physical, int, vit, crit percent chance and physical damage. The gloves, of course, are Tasker and Dio. You want to get something either trifecta or crit percent chance critical damage is the best I can find, or maybe even trifecta. Hopefully I can find some that have trifecta stats in the future, but you know, I'm happy to have a Tasker as opposed to no Tasker. The chest is Zunimasa Maro with increased Fetish Army damage, so this was actually rolled pretty nice for me. I was pretty happy about that. Of course, we're going to run the boots. Boots don't have movement speed because I'll get movement speed inside my Paragon levels. And also an offhand, very important you get int and vitality and add good average damage and crit chance on it because it provides a lot of survivability, and then increased Fetish Army damage by 14%. I cannot stress enough for the offhand to have int and bit because you're not running Ukupi and Serpent, you're not running Dog, so you can't get that extra damage mitigation, which in most pet builds they thrive upon. For our belt option, of course, is the Witching Hour. Attack speed we need, critical damage and vitality. That's a pretty solid choice. Our necklace is going to be a Black Nose Rose Cross. Int, crit percent chance, critical damage is fantastic with the socket. And with the Blackthorn's Jousting Mail Pants, which just has a good amount of toughness on it. So this actually combines to be very well. Gives us a lot of extra toughness, extra damage versus elites. And since we're running the Ring of Roll Randor, it helps our Zunimasa hit the 4-piece and helps our Blackthorn hit the 3-piece, and it also helps our Ogdo's Authority hit the 3-piece. Other ring is, of course, going to be Unity. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. If you don't have Unity when you're doing solo rips, you will get hurt badly. Weapon of choice, actually, to get as lot as most damage as we can into the build, Doombringer actually works out pretty good. I got pretty lucky here. Physical damage and max damage increase in the attack speed, so I was pretty happy about it. But the main thing is it's another 20% physical damage, so we got physical damage from the weapon and also our bracer. And then if you're not in group, of course, you're going to switch Unity out for a physical size, so that'll be pretty nice. For our stats, we are at 60% crit chance, 343% critical damage. We got a little bit of area cooldown because, you know, of course, in the Paragon tree. No cooldown reduction because I feel it's not necessary. Physical damage increased by 37%, which is nice. Fetish damage is increased by 41%, so we're going to hit pretty hard. We have 14.6 million toughness and 1.5 million base damage. Toughness is pretty important here. Helps the fetishes out survive. And then, of course, like I said, we're sitting at 634k HP. For the gems, of course, you know, we're going to be using intelligence gems in the pants and the chest. And then also Amistad inside the helmet for more toughness. The legendary gems, we're going to use the Enforcer gem. We're going to have 23 fetishes out at the time. They are going to survive pretty much well by our passives, by this gem, and then also our crowd control effects. Because the interesting way to deal with fetishes dying is basically to figure out a way to crowd control the mob so that they can't do damage to your fetishes. So that's one of the most craziest things I ever thought of and I actually realized. If you actually have strong CC in your build and the enemy can't do anything, then the fetishes have a higher percent chance of surviving because the enemy can't fight back because half the time they're CCing, and I'll go more in detail with that with the skills I choose later. But just keep that in mind. 25.8% increased pet damage at rank 36, so that's pretty nice. Pets take 25% less damage. We have 23 fetishes out on the field of battle, all of them getting increased by 25.8% damage and also having less damage. That's really good, and that's something you definitely want to run. Let me see here. Also, the Bane of the Powerful, 15% increased damage versus elites, 20% increased damage for 66 seconds. I know some people may not want to use this, but this is pretty solid because what it is, it works well with the Gruesome Feast, 20% increased damage, 66 seconds lasts a good time, and 15% elite damage. You will be keeping this up pretty all the time because you'll be going from elite to elite, and it just basically rarely ever falls off. And even if it's off, when you fight an elite, you do get 15% increased elite damage, which is really nice. It really adds that extra percent elite damage that you're missing from if you were running a Storm of Jordan. And also the Pain Enhancer. Pain Enhancer puts the enemy on the bleed of the target. Weapon damage is physical over 3 seconds. This bleed effect can be triggered by pets or yourself. Anytime you crit, 3-second physical damage as 2300 at rank 37 over 3 seconds. Very strong. Because we're using physical, and the physical scales on the Pain Enhancer, which makes it very nice. Our pets can crit and trigger it. We can crit and trigger it. Not to mention Gain Blood Frenzy, granting you 3% increased attack speed for each bleeding enemy within 20 yards. We'll be up close and personal because we got a lot of CC. So this is actually going to make it so that we get our little attack speed and boost, so we can hit nice breakpoints, so that the fetishes generation can be consistent and constant. So that is also very nice. For our Paragon tree, like I said, I got maxed out movement speed because on boots I don't really have movement speed anymore. I'd rather take a more tankier stat, so I maxed out to 25 and the rest of the points go into intelligence. First priority would be attack speed, followed by critical percentage, then critical damage. If you have a lot of critical chance, then what you could do is actually reduce the critical chance and use critical damage if you'd like. But I prefer critical percent chance because, like I said, just a higher chance for critting, the dot stays on better for the pain user or pain enhancer, and we want to make sure that it has 100% uptime on the target. Armor is, of course, important because we get all resistance from intelligence. I also got life percent after that, and I'm probably putting points into all resist all. And in this tree, life on hit first, followed by area damage, because it's going to help out with the random toads and stuff like that. Then finally resource cost reduction, just so, you know, when we're spamming zombie charger, it's not too bad. And that's pretty much the Paragon. So you guys seen the items, you guys seen the gem choices, you've seen the Paragon choices. Let's just go down to the skill choices. Ranatoad's pretty solid, good at generating fetishes, plus the mimics cast it, so it works well together. Piranha's a Paranado, very strong CC, even though it's not physical. There's just the mimics casting it, having about the option of having 2, maybe even 3 Piranhas or Paranado out. It CCs a lot of targets. And if you actually use it intelligently, combine and time your Piranhas with your fetishes, or not your fetishes, your mimics farm of Paranados, you can actually keep them like trash mobs CC'd indefinitely, so it's very strong. And we do want them to auto cast it because it's a 16-second cooldown ability that can be basically spammed over if your mimics choose to do so and they randomly start to cast it. Spirit Walk, Jaunt, Survivability, Legion of Daggers, because we're running the 3-piece Zuni set with the Ring of Royal Grandeur, so these guys are going to stay out permanently, and we have increased fetish army damage, and they're pretty tough. They're pretty much the anchors of the build. I have to say this in combination with the Horrify make a big difference. Zombie Charger Pylon. This hits for about 20 million on regular mobs and can hit upwards of 25 to 30 million on elites, so this is a pretty solid choice for another auto spat cast spell that adds extra damage. And then Horrify is also very nice because this gives us 35% additional armor. It CCs the target for 3 seconds with fear. And not to mention the mimics can also cast Horrify as well. So like I said, combine Horrify with Piranhas and Paranado and role place cast between your mimics auto casting those two, and then you casting them and using them in battle. You can use them really good on elites and keep things kind of within reason, so like you're not, you know, constantly getting bombarded by things, and you can actually have a little bit more control. Not to mention the Horrify adds a little bit more survivability. If you'd like to use Bane or Trapped in this build, Horrify and definitely Piranhas or Paranado would definitely trigger a lot of the movement impairing effects, so that's just something to think about. Pierce the Veil, Fetish Sycophants, Gruesome Feast, Jungle Fortitude. Pierce the Veil is pretty straightforward. We don't use a lot of mana in this build, so that works. Fetish Sycophants because they're physical and it scales well with what we have, so of course we want to run Fetish Sycophants so we can have 15 up for a total of 23 fetishes on the field of battle. Gruesome Feast, obvious choice here, just it works so well in the build. It will go well with our Banner the Powerful, amplify our damage up, and then once of course we get the increased intelligence, we do have more toughness and more damage. Works really well in the build. And then of course we're going to be running Jungle Fortitude to have a little bit more toughness, since we are basically need to keep our fetishes alive since we're running all fetishes. And then not to mention we also need to get a little bit more toughness because we don't have a Ukapian Serpent and a Zombie Dog to take the damage for us. Now if you like to switch around these skills or try something different in Jungle Fortitude, I know some people like to run Spirit Vessel, some people like to, you know, run different combinations and stuff. This is just my variant of it, and it's been working pretty good for me. So anyways, enough talking. As always, we are going to start with the Valley or the Realm of Trials. Hopefully I can get to 30, but we might start at 28, 29. We'll see. Oh, that's a little loud. Let's go ahead and reduce the sound just a smidge. There we go. So, I mean, there's really much to Trials. They auto-cast everything, the mimics, so I would just say, just when you start getting in the higher trials, just be careful about when you cast your Piranhas or Paranado, and then you want to basically pick up your little health globes right before a wave. And the rhinos are pretty annoying. They can pretty much spell doom if you're trying to get up to like 30, 31 on a wave. I think everybody knows that. I got another group of rhinos, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully I don't see them anymore, but we'll have to wait and see. Wave 25. Alright, piranhas are Paranado, and we do want to stay kind of close so we can get the secondary buff from the pain enhancer. There we go. Perfect. Wave 27. Now we can start maybe using Horrify. This is where I need to be careful using my piranhas or Paranado. Helps me out a lot. Pretty straightforward. We are on wave 29. So now I'm gonna Horrify a little bit more, stay pretty close, maybe cast a couple zombie charges myself, piranhas or Paranado. You can cast zombie charges whenever you want, especially when you have a bunch of mana, because that just makes the most sense. And then he is going to die. So now we're on wave number 30. Hopefully we can get this knocked out. Gonna come up and Horrify a couple more pylons. Piranhas or Paranado. That's, let's say, this is where you really want to time your piranhas or Paranados. Now, if everything goes well, they should be able to finish off with us these guys pretty easy before the timer got it. Good job. There we go. I don't know why I just said good job like I'm encouraging myself, but I guess whatever works, right? See if we can get this wave down. I think we'll be okay. I think we can get this down. Yeah, this is looking pretty solid. We got this. So we got pretty lucky on the monster waves and shit. Because usually sometimes you get some nasty ass monsters. So we're on wave 32. Start the piranhas with the Paranado. They're just gonna start Rains of Toning. Now I'm gonna start Horrifying to keep things CC'd. Just keep putting out the damage. I see this right over here. Health load. And getting everybody knocked out. I think we'll get it in time. No, we didn't. That's okay. We started at rank 30 for a GrinReaper build. That's not bad at all. I had an interesting question in chat. They said, is there anything better than Rain of Toads? I mean, you can use Piercing Toads, and you can also use, well, really just Piercing Toads, unless you, I mean, Rain of Flailor is kind of like, you know, when you're using Alien Toads. But the reason Rain of Toads is so good is because it has the highest proc coefficient for the fetishes. So sometimes your fetishes will just be dying to certain messed up enemy types, but you having that Rain of Toads with a good attack speed will guarantee you can replenish your fetish ranks pretty immediately. Oh, I was so bad. I didn't cast my ones fetishes from the Zunimasa. So this is Reflect. The best thing you do Reflect is just be careful and be conscious when like they're casting Reflect, and as soon as they stop casting Reflect, then you go basically back in. I'm timing my piranhas with my Paranados right here just so that they don't CC me horribly, and then plus my Mimics can cast Horrify too, so that's pretty nice. So I'm just trying to play safe, time my CC, and then that's all I'm trying to do. So that went really well. And we have a lot of toughness, so the fetishes can take a little bit of punishment. And this is a pretty nice riff. So the videos, this might only be a 3-part video series, but as you can see, the fetishes are hitting pretty hard. That's thanks to the Pain Enhancer and the Gruesome Feast. You know, you see sometimes our DPS goes up to 1.82 million, a little bit more than that sometimes, which is pretty nice. And the Enforcer Gem really helps out a lot with fetishes surviving, having them do more damage. But I'd have to say, in terms of damage, the Bane of the Powerful and the Gruesome Feast really take this build's damage to the next level. If you're trying to make the GrinReaper go high, you know. Very strong, consistent damage and stuff like that. If you need to amp up the damage of your pets, Enforcer with Bane of the Powerful is a very strong combination. And then plus, if you actually go like a full fetish build, like I said, you can use Gruesome Feast, and Gruesome Feast is phenomenal at amping up damage. Not to mention also Pain Enhancer too, we get the attack speed increase for being in close. And for the most part, like I said, it's a pretty straightforward build. I think anybody can run it. All you need is the GrinReaper to start it off with, and then, you know, just the better gear you get, the better it makes it. Just starting off, you don't even have to have the Zunimasa, but eventually when you do get the Zunimasa, which is fairly easy to get, you know, you can instantly start training this build and start try to go for greater rift attempts of like maybe level 34, maybe even 25. I was quite surprised that once I actually combined it with the Zunimasa, and I was able to identify what did I need in the build and what I didn't need in the build, it actually started working really well, and I was quite surprised for a GrinReaper build that it actually could just do so well. So, like I said, just casting a Horrify there. Now, if you notice, I'm not really casting too much zombie charger. Sometimes I might cast it on an elite or something like that. If you want to cast it more often, by all means, I recommend and stuff like that. I'm just more concerned with timing off my horrifies and my crowd control effects because I just don't want to deal with the enemy's silliness. So I'm always watching. Okay, gotta watch for reflex, stop attacking. You know, maybe spirit walk up, grab some, you know, health globes. You know, okay, Piranha's Paranado's up, make sure that's up. So it's not the fact that, you know, it's like, I mean, I let it auto cast. There's sometimes I can cast it myself, but sometimes I just rather Reigns of Toads just to keep up the constant flow of fetishes. And then also just so I can be more aware what's going on, because I mean, the build gets a lot better if you can time your CC along with your mimics whenever they cast it, you know, and then just basically get the full maximum use out of all your CC or crowd control abilities, basically. But this is looking pretty solid so far. Good mob density, not a bad mob rift or anything. No more lose. More lose will always make you go emo with any type of fetish build, but with the Enforcer Gym, unless you're like on 34, for the most part, it keeps the main fetishes alive. So I cast the Piranhas of Paranado. It's not going to really CC these guys, but Horrify will. So I'm just playing it safe right now. I'm not doing anything too crazy. Hopefully the mimics will cast a Horrify. I'll come in, Horrify group, and then just basically run out. Now if I wanted to spam Zombie Charger, I could use up some of my mana and stuff like that, because I mean, just because you know got it auto cast doesn't mean you cannot cast it yourself. I mean, that kind of helps out too. So like I said, I'll just play very safe on that one. We only lost one fetish, not bad at all. But like I always say, if you watch a lot of my other videos, I just try to play very consistently. I don't try to do any too like dramatical things. I like to always showcase builds that are kind of realistic, that can do consistent level greater rifts. What I don't like to do is just simply, you know, spam greater rift keys, maybe get a lucky rift and say, oh, I cleared this level. I don't believe a build can clear a certain level unless you can clear it 7 out of 10 times. So if you say you got a build rank 40, that means to me, I would say like, okay, well, is it just something that you just spam the rifts over and over again, or can you do it like 7 out of 10 times? Because if you can take like 10 level 40 greater rift shards, because that's what everybody seems to be focusing on, and clear it 7 out of 10 times, I feel like, okay, well, the build's proven itself. But if you can only, you know, do that when you have Act 1 zombies and you can't consider what if you have Act 5 mobs and stuff like that, then I don't really even think the build is, you can say it's consistently going to do at that level. But I must admit, the greater rifts are a little bit RNG and there's not much you can do about it. But whenever I try to do a build and people ask me, well, what's the highest level this clear with, I just tell them based upon the highest level I can get out of it consistently. Like for instance, I know I did like a Jade build, I can get 35 pretty consistently when I was doing it back when I first did Jade. I need to actually return to that build. But even my pet build, it felt like, okay, 35 consistently. I noticed most pet builds can hit 35 consistently. And then, you know, 36, 37, I see some people do some nice risks at 36, 37. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 be able to do 38 pretty consistently. He has some pretty sick gear. You know, getting it 7 times out of 10. And the reason I say 7 times out of 10 is like a passing grade, right, in school, right? 70% or higher, otherwise you're failing. Well, technically a D is a passing, but we don't want to have D's on our report card. So, whenever I see put out a build, it's pretty much, it's going to be, you know, a pretty solid build so that you can consistently get to a certain level. And then if you want to take the build to the next level, that's kind of up to you, but I mean, for the most part, if a build can take you to greater rift 35, it probably can take you to 36 or 37 if the right things line up. 38 and 39 is not too bad, and 40 you just have to keep spamming until you get that miracle rift. If you guys watch my YouTube videos, if you want an example of like what's a good RNG in a greater rift, just check out the video called Miracle Rift. It's inside my YouTube listings. And I get a little crazy when I get it because I was like so shocked how well it was. But basically, a Miracle Rift is when you get Act 1 mobs, high mob density, you're able to spawn the Rift Guardian on the first level, and then on top of all that, you get an easy Rift Guardian, which everything happened. And plus, on top of that, which was nice, it was a conduit pylon and stuff like that. So, I was pretty happy about that, and it was pretty awesome. And I have to say, I was, I mean, it was cool, but it was sad at the same point, because it's like, you just don't want to base your whole builds just basically spamming greater Rift keys until you find certain said, you know, riff options or variables, because then it gets kind of boring, because then it's like, well, your build can't, I mean, because like, I think when a build really shows itself well, it's like if you guys watch my Reno play the build in the last video, I did 35, and it was really consistent. Like my 35s are getting real consistent to the point where it's 4 or 5 minutes, and I can start pushing towards 36, 37. But that's 35, 30. That's like, I mean, that's like, you know, consistency. Even if I get bad mob density, even if I get, you know, really crazy Act 5 mobs, the CC of the Renho Flayer allowed for me to do the build and get to higher levels and do it more consistently. And I noticed with the GrinReaper 2 that actually started working out well once I included the Horrify, once I start focusing more with the Paranado and more CC effects and stuff like that. And once I actually start wrapping the build up and getting the right gems and the right items, I noticed that the GrinReaper build started to perform like pretty dang well. But like I said, most of the time, GrinReaper build is just, you know, an introductory level build, and it's just to get people to higher level and stuff like that, or get them farming and stuff in the game. Now, some people ask me, well, Debo, why don't you use a Star Metal Kukuri? But I said, you know what, if I'm going to make a guide to Carnival, realistically, most of Witch Doctor population just doesn't have one of the lowest dropping % item weapons in the game. Like, not only the chance of getting a Star Metal Kukuri is pretty low, it's like the chance when I think when the ceremonial knife drops, I'd like to say 5%, I think it's 2, but I think it's like 5% chance for it to be Star Metal Kukuri. So basically what that means is whenever you do get a ceremonial knife, when you click 20 of them, you basically have on the 20th ceremonial knife 50-50 chance it'll be Star Metal Kukuri after you get 20, but we all know how RNG works. If it's 5%, yeah, I think I did the math right, or hopefully I did. If somebody needs to can be like, no, Debo, you didn't do the math right. Let me correct you. But it has a real low drop chance. Now, I've gotten 2 because I'm lucky, and I think it's only because of streamer buff, and I do believe in that stuff, because sometimes I get silly drops. Like, I gotten 7 Tasker and Theos. It's not to brag, I just been real lucky. But I just wanted to showcase the build not having to revolve around with SMK, so people can try this build out and be like, okay, I can get these items, these seem really obtainable, so people don't get too depressed, because I don't want every single guide of mine to be like SMK, SMK, SMK. Now with that being said, if you actually ran an if I ran an SMK, dropped the zombie dog chargers, and just went for like a Star Metal Kukuri with this build can probably get up to 36, 37, no problem. But again, I don't want to do that because realistically, not everybody has the same stuff. Now, Blood Maul, he's an asshole, but this is a lower level Torment, so it's not too bad. As you see, the damage is pretty good. I'm just kind of dancing around him before he starts jumping and going emo. I got Horrify up, I got my Spirit Walk, got my little Gruesome Feast. So the damage is pretty good with GrinReaper, as long as you go with the 23 Fetish option with the Zunimasa. So now he's going to start jumping like an emo man, and I'm just going to leave the room because he's too much to deal with right now. And I'm just going to rain the toes in the room and hopefully it kills him. I don't know what my fetishes are doing. I can't. Hopefully, I don't like this guy. At higher rips, he's quite emo. So we're 7 seconds off of getting skipped 32. That's okay, so we're going to be at 31. But as you can see, the build performed flawlessly, and we had enough time to spare. We was able to skip 2 levels. We're going to do 31. So as always, this is the first part of the video where I go over the build, the items, the builds, and well, the build, the items, skills, blah, 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 so you can see what's going on. And then in the second video, I will be making a part 2 so that you guys can see what's going on at the Greater Rift level 31. So for the first part of the GrinReaper video series, this is the end of it. If you pretty much understand what's going on, then you don't have to, Stone of Jordan, then you don't have to worry about it. But like I said, I'll see you guys in video 2.